So what your expunction does, it's a little bit of a pain in the butt because you're essentially having to file a lawsuit against the government. And that lawsuit is saying, hey, government, I am suing you to destroy my records.
We are the Armed Attorneys. Today we're talking about cleaning up your record because sometimes even things that aren't convictions can jam you up when it comes to your gun rights. So we're talking expunctions. Full disclosure, we are going to be talking really about Texas law, but if expunctions are the same in your state, this could be applicable to you. Every state's a little bit different, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. But before we begin, show your support for the Second Amendment by hitting that like button. And if you're not already, join us over on armedattorneys.com. Join the newsletter, the Insider newsletter. We don't spam, folks. We send out emails maybe once a month-ish, breaking updates, things that you need to know. But let's talk about this stuff.
So this episode is originally airing on Halloween 2025, which is appropriate because there's nothing spookier than your past record coming back to haunt your gun rights.
That's true.
So, yes, it is something that is, I think, horrifying for most of us because if you're watching this channel, you probably do a lot to live your best life and to live life in accordance with the law, but it happens to so many people. Something happened 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, unlawful carries. I mean, things that are,
things that aren't even crimes anymore.
Right, exactly right. So it's a good thing to figure out how to make that go away.
Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of a misconception, and when I try to break down somebody's criminal, rap sheet, record of arrests and prosecutions, that's where that slang comes from. People think, all right, maybe I was even charged with a crime or received a ticket.
How have I been a criminal lawyer this long and I did not know that?
You didn't know that?
Record of arrest and prosecution.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Well,
I learn something new every day. Look at that.
But think about this. Maybe you're not even formally charged. There's really 3 sections generally to most criminal records. And it's, were you arrested for something? How did the prosecutor's office handle this? And what did the court do with it? Mm-hmm. So you have those kind of 3 segments for each of these things. Well, we have a lot of situations where, people get arrested and never formally charged, or maybe the DA's office declines to prosecute us, so they even have some involvement. But a lot of people are under this misconception of like, hey, I was never formally charged, so there's no record of this. There's a record there.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where it comes up. And we've seen a tremendous uptick in gun owners getting denied firearms transactions because of these cases, because of something called the fixed NICS.
Do you remember the fixed NICS? Fixed NICS was...
It's almost 10 years.
Wow, I was going to say 2017.
Yeah.
But it might have been 2015. I don't know. It's hard to remember that far back now. But yes, fix the NICS. Government logic that if something is broken, you just dump a whole bunch of money and bureaucrats into it and that will fix the problem. No, it's like, what is it? Feed a fever, starve a cold. Starve the problem, government, because pouring all the money into it did nothing except make things worse.
Yeah, essentially what they did is they incentivized, and this was in the wake of the Sutherland Springs, where we had somebody who was theoretically prohibited from purchasing firearms. That was the feds messed that one up. It was a federal record that they messed up. But, so they went in and said, hey, well, we need all these agencies on the state level, federal level to go in, fill in as many gaps and holes as they can so that the wrong people can't purchase firearms. And what it had the effect of doing is, okay, we have now all of these incomplete records because all these agencies want money, right? We have all these incomplete records. And what we're seeing is the feds are saying, oh, well, we don't know what the disposition of this was, so we're just going to, better safe than sorry, we're going to deny this firearms transfer. It is causing a nightmare.
It is, and it's especially enraging because a lot of these offenses were not felonies to begin with, and they're not disqualifying.
Yeah.
So the fact that they don't know what happened to them means absolutely nothing. But sure, it's a lot easier to deny the purchase than it is to do your jobs with all the money my taxes give you. So we only have one solution at this point because we're not at insurrection yet, I suppose. So this is a solution. It's expunction. You might have heard the term expungement. That's actually everywhere but Texas. Texas is the only place I've ever heard of that uses the word expunction as opposed to expungement, but same difference. That's what we're talking about. Expunctions here in Texas. Let's clean up that record.
Yeah, and it has, and this is where, hey, if your state, if an expunction has the same legal effect as what we're talking about, then this is going to be helpful. Obviously, hang out. We'd love to chat with you. There are some states that treat an expunction more like a sealing of records where
Yes.
maybe they're not accessible to the public anymore, but the government can still see it. Well, guess what? That's not going to help you. Maybe there's some other procedure, in which case maybe this is helpful. It's just called something else. But expunctions have, a couple of really cool effects here in the state of Texas. And what are those?
Yes. So what your expunction does, although it's a little bit of a pain in the butt because you're essentially having to file a lawsuit against the government. And that lawsuit is saying, hey, government, I am suing you to destroy my records. But once you file that lawsuit and once it is granted, which it is in many instances, because there are
Non-discretionary.
non-discretionary expunctions where
Yeah.
the government doesn't get to say, no, 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 you can't have this. The law says that if you file the lawsuit, you are entitled to win. It's a guaranteed winner. How often do you get that in the law? But if it happens, you get your records shredded. Shredded. And I can tell you from being a law school intern at the Harris County District Attorney's Office in the expunction department that they really do have little law school interns there. Like, actually, like, my job was to go into all of the computer systems and actually permanently delete all of those files from the DA's office.
Yeah. So it's that. It's you get to legally deny that you were ever arrested, like it never happened. The second part is, it orders whoever has kind of their fingers on this case. I mean, they're part of the lawsuit. They get dragged into it. They have to turn all their records over to the court. The court physically destroys all these things. Agencies have to go in, delete all their entries and records to this. So, I mean, it really is like a clean slate.
It is, and it's fantastic. And I cannot recommend it enough for a lot of reasons. I mean, the firearm transfer issue, yes. Also, for the purposes of your LTC, I mean, I can't tell you how slap happy the DPS here in Texas is to just be like, oh, we just need to see more records on this thing. And so it's just delaying LTCs unnecessarily because, again, it's not disqualifying. Plus, the DPS knows what happened because they're the DPS. So it's just infuriating altogether. It's just a delay tactic to see if they can.
It's the IRS meme. It's like, you got to pay your taxes. Okay, well, how much? I'm not going to tell you that. What if I guess wrong? You go to jail.
Right. Also, you know how much taxes I owe. Just send me a bill.
Right.
IRS. Anyway, but yeah, I am raging against the government today.
Yeah.
I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, I suppose. Okay, so yes, it is, it is good for your LTC. It is good for your firearm purchase, but it's also good for, employment background checks. It's good for, I actually had a prosecutor threaten me yesterday, threaten me for having the audacity to advocate for my client. And he agreed to dismiss the case, but he was like, just so you know, we've got his name in our records now. So if this ever happens again, you bet it'll come up in trial. Like, it won't because I'm going to get it expunged.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But okay.
Right. Well, and I think that's key because maybe this stuff and you're not thinking, I want you to think proactively because prosecutors do that. They get that rap sheet. They see, this person had charges dismissed or never formally trialed. When I was a prosecutor, I did look at somebody who has zero criminal history. I mean, you look at that person differently than someone who's had maybe several arrests, several dismissals, or whatever. Theoretically, guess what? You're not supposed to hold that stuff against them. They were never adjudicated guilty. They weren't found guilty. People just,
but they do.
They can't help themselves.
I did when I was a prosecutor. I would look at that and say, look at how many chances he's had. Look at how many times he's been arrested and had cases dismissed. And as a defense attorney now I know, that
means that was BS.
Yep, that means you shouldn't have been arresting him in the first place. But as a prosecutor, that really is the mentality. They're like, look, you've had so many chances, no more breaks.
Yep. So you don't know when these things are going to pop up again. So resolving them now so they can't be held against you, even though they shouldn't, guess what? People can't help themselves. Now, not everyone is eligible for an expunction. And it's really kind of a limited few categories. If you've been acquitted by a jury, so you were found not guilty, if the case was dismissed and the statute of limitations has expired, if you were never formally charged, say you were arrested, never formally charged, we have some interesting theories about how this is going to play out because it's kind of a new law.
It's new.
And the statute of limitations hasn't expired. But ultimately, it's not for everybody. Yeah. If you pled to something, I'll take that back. I have to caveat myself. Class C deferreds.
Class C deferreds.
So that is a plea to something, but you could still get that expunged. But otherwise, if you were placed on a probation, if you served time in jail, if
Yeah.
there's a lot of scenarios where you are not eligible.
No, people have this idea like, oh, well, this is going to fall off my record in such and such number of years. No. If you pled to something, if you were convicted, if you were placed on deferred adjudication, and that confuses people other than the Class C misdemeanor because they think, well, my case was dismissed. If it was dismissed after deferred, you are not eligible for expunction. So it is, I suppose, few and far between, but idea being, man, if your case was dismissed outright or you're acquitted or you're never charged, you are wholly entitled to be whole again, right? For your record to be wiped clean.
Yeah, but theoretically, because think about this, because I get that question. Does an expunction restore my gun rights? Well, it shouldn't be impacting you because if you're falling into one of these categories of dismissal, never formally charged, acquitted, well, your rights shouldn't be impacted. But we see with the monkeying with the fixed nicks and filling in all these records, because I just had a guy, he had I think it was almost 40 years ago, charge where they went and filled in some gaps and now it left the FBI scratching their head. And we just saw the path of least resistance, getting this thing completely wiped off his record. It shouldn't affect your gun rights, but you see how practically it can.
Right. Legally, it should not. Legally, it does not. Practically, unfortunately, when you are in the position of purchasing a firearm at the gun counter, it is affecting lots of people.
Yeah.
But if you are a Texan and you have a charge you think could be expunged, contact walkertaylorlaw.com. All of our information
Shameless
is
plug.
Yeah, no, I mean, we are. This is something we do. We are a full service criminal defense law firm, although we love to focus on firearms. How many expunctions have you done in your life, Richard? Countless.
Countless.
So contact us. We'd love to talk to you about it. If you need expunction, hopefully we can help you out.
Yeah, but we hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video.
And as always, question and comment for us below. We love to read what you guys have to say. Until next time, we're the Armed Attorneys.